Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome, and I'm your host, That Creepy Reading, and today I bring you the crappy pastas you wait for every week, the shit-tastic, the worst of the worst, the mind-numbingly thing that's making me going mentally insane. With that being said, I got 3 stories for you, as always. We're gonna begin with Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Nightmare, followed by Proven Innocent, a rather short one, followed by LittleBigPlanet PS Vita Tired of Life. That being said, let's begin. Kingdom Hearts was a very popular game in my high school years. Most of all my friends loved it to death and went on about how awesome it was. A friend of mine let me borrow his PlayStation 2. I was a little bit more of a Nintendo kid growing up, so I didn't own the other systems besides a Game Boy Advance SP and a GameCube. And he let me borrow his copies, the first and second Kingdom Hearts. After I finished and returned the game and the system, I could not get enough of the franchise. The later games didn't interest me much though, so I decided to skip them. A couple years later, the 3DS came out, and being the little Nintendo child I was, I couldn't help but buy the system. After I bought the system and beat a couple of games, Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop's Distance was coming out. I was out of luck. The only GameStop that was available to me was completely sold out on the game, surprisingly, and didn't plan on getting any copies anytime soon. So, bummed out, I decided to ask my friends from high school to see if anyone had it. And if they did, and they were a nice enough guy to let me borrow it, once again, my luck ran low. Nobody had it. Since I was out of luck, I decided to check the eBay and thought about all those stories on the haunted games and crap like that. Just wait and see what the future holds, I told myself. A couple of weeks went by and I went to go stop at GameStop to see if they had KHDDD. To my surprise, they still didn't have a single copy. I thought this was complete BS, and I thought this was completely improbable, but okay. I wasn't about to mess with the clerk that day by yelling at him about a video game. Disappointed, I walk home. On my way back, I came across a 3DS cartridge with no label in the middle of the street. Wow! I thought to myself. I looked both ways on the street, so when I crossed it, I looked both ways on the street, so when I crossed it like the good little boy I was, I wouldn't get ran over, and I picked the cartridge up. Couldn't get the game I wanted, I guess. I guess I'll just play you. I stuffed the cartridge into my pocket and walked home. Once I had gotten home, I sat on my couch and put the cartridge into my 3DS, and then my jaw dropped, and a giant smile came across my face. Holy crap! This is too good to be true! Then I thought about it for a little bit. Why would this, of all games, be in the middle of the street? Why not at GameStop? Maybe I shouldn't play this. I mean, like there's stories on the internet about someone dying over some game. It was just a game, right? What could it possibly do to me? Sadly, as human beings, we tend to get curious. I inserted the game into my 3DS, not aware of what could happen next. I decided to press play, the 3DS opening came up, and a cutscene of the Mickey doing the Fantasia magic came up, and then the Disney sign followed. I decided to skip the cutscene and go on my merry way. The start menu came up with a sleeping Sora flying down, and a worried Mickey trying to grab his had. Fuck this story. Riku wasn't even there. That was funny, I thought. Riku was in this. I decided to ignore that. And I decided to press play and start the normal mode. When the game started, I felt a little lightheaded. This I didn't understand. I put the game down and checked to see if the 3D bar was on, and it was only a little. I bet it gave me a headache, like I was playing a full 3D blast for an hour. I told myself I'll just set the 3D bar off, and in doing so I noticed the headache go away. What the? Whatever. Fuck this story. Well, whatever. This could just be me. I started to play. The game started with me as Sora in the tutorial, and a simple fight with Ursula. Once I defeated her, I had to dive, whatever that was. I noticed some things set me off a little, like when I ran into something, Sora looked as if he wore a lot of pain, like you would in real life. I told myself, guess this is supposed to be a realistic, and they're making on this step. Personally, I thought it was really messed up. Clearly. Fuck it. Once I went through with the dive, my head began pounding again really hard. Censored fuck, I whispered to myself. The hell is happening to me? I found that this is no mere coincidence. After getting over the headache, I found I was in Traveler's Town. I took a tutorial about some kind of free running activity, which was pretty fun. At the tutorial, Sora was standing up, eyes closed. Then he awoke. He was in Traveler's Town. No way, bruh, he yelled. No, why no? Why? What is going on? I have fucking no idea. I'm reading this. I gotta get out of here, bruh. Right now. The camera zoomed into Sora's face, the ending cutscene. Once again, I found this a little dumb. What would Square Enix make this happy-go-lucky character into some sick baby? Why was he freaking out like that? If I knew anything about what happened over KH1, nothing bad had happened to him in Traverse Town. Maybe it was there in the games that I skipped. Curious as hell, I continued my adventure. Ho! I was getting a little bit tired, so I found a checkpoint and saved. Then headed to bed. I got ready and raced to the bed, like you would when you were a afraid little kid of monsters, and I kid you not, that's what the guy fucking wrote. Obviously, I wasn't really scared of the monsters, but racing to bed part stuck to me. I guess some habits stick well. Well, as soon as I fell asleep, I dreamed that I was in Traveler's Town. Oh my god, no, he is not. Please, dear. No. He's not. That's not what he wrote down, is it? I woke up in Traveler's Town, no control of my body whatsoever. I raced along with Sora. My body turned and say what was chasing us. My body turned and say what was happening and chasing us. It was a big dog type thing. It was missing an eye and had a spine-chilling grin on it. Spooky, scary skeletons. This made me a bit scared. I mean, who would it be? As we ran like hell from this beast, in what felt like a never-ending haul, Sora had tripped. My body turned, and I saw the hell beast flip Sora into air. Sora reached for me, but I couldn't really stop running. Horror filled everything in me as I hear Sora yell bloody murder. Tears reached my eyes as I knew it was me next. I woke up with the biggest headache ever. I was trembling from what happened. This can wait, I told myself. I need to know. I got out of bed. It was around 3:30 a.m. Oh, lovely witching hour reference. And I turned my 3DS on and opened my save file. I had skipped over the tutorial as I felt it wasn't needed. I needed a battle. These things were called Dream Eaters. My eyes had opened wide as these Dream Eaters were visually horrifying. This bat, if I can even call it that, had a wing ripped open and was soaked red. This has to be fake, I thought to myself. This is a kid's game for crying out loud. Square Enix wouldn't allow... Fuck you, writer. And another dream eater was a panda-looking animal who, from even the slightest look, could make you pass out. Just your imagination, let that take over, for I do not want to describe this demon due to a lack of imagination and poor writing on my part. When Sora took damage, he made a face like when I was diving and ran into something. Instead, hearts coming out like they did in KH1 and 2, they simply vanished. Wait, no buddies, release heart, only heartless. I remember the trailer explaining that thing about the Dream Eaters were only after dreams, so I passed that. The game forced me into a pause screen and made me my own Dream Eater. They gave me materials and made me a Dream Eater. I froze in shock. My mind couldn't grasp the horror. That's the Dream Reader was. That's the thing for my sensor. Damn, Dream. Why is this thing here? Why would you fucking censor? It's a story. If you're gonna put a cuss word in there, put a cuss word in there. If you don't want a cuss word in there, don't put it in there. But don't go halfway and censor it. Swear to God, I'm gonna beat the living shit out of you. Okay. It was then when I understood what Sora was scared about. A programmer must have messed with the whole game, causing Sora to say something he wouldn't. His character wasn't like what he said at all. Some unlucky must have. You guys have no idea how stressful reading a story like this. It just makes your blood boil in a moment of pure euphoria with a straight face is. But I'm a masochist, so let's continue on. Someone unlucky must have gone through the same thing I was. Maybe he/she cracked under what happened and got rid of the game. Maybe if they did a better job, this wouldn't have to happen to me. My brain came back from its deep thinking and to find monsters staring at me. Still on the screen, I injected the cartridge from my 3DS and turned the system off. I clenched the cartridge tight in my hand. I looked at the time. 5? How in the hell? I put my dress clothes on and I personally was gonna get rid of it for good. I walked out of my house and out of the door. I walked out of my house, locked the door, and went out of the door to an area where there was no one around so I could smash the cursed thing. The only place I knew was abandoned by the parking lot. It took me about a half-hour walk to, well, pay a visit. Once there, I dropped the game on the floor. Nobody deserves this kind of hellish nightmare, not even a video game character. I smashed the game, overjoyed, stomping on it repeatedly with a satisfying look of approval when I found the game in seemed like 100 pieces. Then I walked home. When I unlocked the door, this instant migraine was 10 times worse than it was at first. My head hurt so much to try to open door and I was panicking. I had no idea why, but I was scared of something. I woke up in the hospital bed. I asked what happened and why am I here. Your neighbors say they call 911. You're not mentally fit right now, so I gave you some pills so you get back on track. He said. Something in his voice made me think he was hiding something. Oh look, there's the end. Fuck it. Fuck the story. Moving on. The cops had everything about kidnapping Joey wrong. Their prime suspect, Scooter the Clown, was a well-known child's entertainer in town. He performed at parties, like Joey's, all the time. At the precinct, I am insignificant and failing for attention of titans. Finally, a cop turns to me and says, "Are you a lost little boy?" On cue, my silence held no longer. The balloons with the ransom note. Were they filled with helium, right? I asked. Scooter never had helium tank on there that day. He blew up everything he had by hand. Check his trunk. You will see that I am telling the truth. Officer smiled and left, only to return 10 minutes later, ghost-stricken. He had down on his knees and rattled. I don't know how I missed that, kid, but you just did that clown a service. I bleated as I walked home, knowing my hero was safe, not ever dreaming that he would thank me in person. When I saw him a block from my house, my jaw dropped. Someone's been a good little detective. I have a badge for you, Scooter said. He reached for his pocket and grabbed a balloon in the shape of a badge and blew it up in front of me. As soon as he held it in the light, as soon as I held it, its light floating from my heart froze. Without another word, I turned around and he started dancing down the street, pausing only occasionally to put a balloon on his lips and then tie it to release in the air. Each one drifted into the sky, and then I realized how wrong I was. All of us was about Scooter. Fuck this story, it's too short, nothing is explained, and the writing is awful, and I hate it. Enough said, the end. Let's move on. I'm a big fan of handheld gaming. The fact that you can literally pick up any game and take it anywhere with you is amazing. I'm even a bigger fan of LittleBigPlanet. However, I was quite displeased when the series first hit handhelds. The PSP edition didn't have that feeling of a good game. However, after a few years later, when the PS Vita launched, I finally got the game and had been yearning for it for so long. LittleBigPlanet Vita blew the PSP edition out of the water. It was just a good PS3 editions. Like most games, LBP Vita had plenty of trophies to collect, some simple, some hard, and some just silly. It was not fit until too long ago, and almost collected all of the trophies in the game. One of the trophies I still needed was a bronze trophy, Tired of Life. All I knew what to do was accumulate 20 deaths in one story level. Simple enough. I booted up the game and went to Colonel Flowers levels, Lee Maronita, and went up to level Flounder, Jump, and Jive. The level loaded and began resetting itself. After about 20 times of killing myself and using the reset feature, I did not receive a trophy. I decided that perhaps I had to actually be killed by something in the level lethal out 20 times. So I went through the level until I reached the first obstacle, which was a spike pit. I repeatedly threw my Sackboy into a spike pit for about a minute. When I thought the trophy had instead, chat bubble appeared that read, "No, please, I have so much to live for." Perplexed, I decided to ignore it because I wanted a trophy. As I walked back into the spike pit, my Sackboy began frowning itself. I couldn't make him smile or change his emotion at all. The closer I got, the more sad he became. By the time I was at the end, he was crying. I leaped into the pit, died, and I got the trophy. Happy that I finally got the trophy, I exited the level and begun playing some community levels inside my pod. However, he still had a sad emotion. I tapped my community levels icon and he immediately was thrown into a level. Once it loaded, I paused the level to see what the name was called. The name was Tired of Life, just like the trophy. This was a cutscene level, so I couldn't move around or anything, really. The entire level just shown my Sackboy for... Sackboy pacing for about 5 minutes. The background was foggy, and it was racing. He still had a sad emotion. And since this was fairly boring, I paused the game. As much as I would like to stop reading the story, it is also fairly boring. And I hit the return button on the pod. But I was greeted by a chat bubble that said, "No! "Excuse me, princess," I said. Tired of hitting the return button to the pod again, but yet again, I was told no. Unpaused the level and I kept watching. After about another minute of pacing, my Sackboy finally got to a house. Similar to the one on the tutorial to make a PSN account from LittleBigPlanet 2. He entered a house, and a faint sobbing noise could be heard about 30 seconds later. Another sound played. It sounded like the noise from, well, a loading gun. This was really creeping me out. I heard more sobbing, and then a gunfire, and then the windows lit up, and there was an actual weapon that was fired. Oh, spooky, scary skeletons. It darkened again. The screen zoomed out of the house, the level ended, and I just sat there dumbfounded. What was just about to happen? I clicked the continue to pod button, but the game froze and told me that I had to reboot it. Once the game loaded, as the usual pod screen appeared, my Sackboy never popped up. I couldn't use any of the buttons or go into any levels. I decided to turn the game off and simply watch TV. I turned to the news channel. There's a reporter talking about a recent mad suicide in the Life Church. This is very close to my home, about 3 blocks away. The reporter continued on, saying that all 20 victims are impaled. No. No, you're fucking kidding. No. Saying that each of the 20 victims was impaled by a large spike. That each had impaled themselves one after another. What a coincidence. I hope so, and I turned my TV off, went straight to bed. In the morning I awoke, booted up LBP Vita again to see if it would work. Sure enough, my Sackboy appeared in the pod like normal, and I control his emotions again. However, pod reset to usual cardboard wall, so I redecorate it. Pod reboot itself again. Time to collect more trophies. And that was... I don't even fucking know. I'm physically depressed. I'm depressed we live in a world where this type of thing exists. Jesus Christ. Some of the stuff was really hard to read and was causing my dyslexia to act up. I decided to read this all in one go. So what you're gonna hear is exactly my first read-through of all of these. Jesus Christ. I don't know what to say. I am lightheaded. I am at shortness of breath. And I don't even know what to say to this. It was... Dear God, this may be the worst shit I've ever read. I am crying. Okay, so with the first story, it was alright, I guess, when it first started. It didn't have the main character say, I was a fan of the PS2, but instead it delved into him being a Nintendo fanboy and saying that he only liked the mainstream games on the consoles. He heard about it coming onto a Nintendo console, and like a fanboy, he decides to try to buy the game, but it's ridiculous how GameStop would be out of copies. The game wasn't all that popular, and to be honest, GameStop usually never runs out of copies, and when it does, it gets it in about a week or so. The game isn't that popular. It wouldn't act like that. It wouldn't be like this. So that kills the immersion right there. Plot hole number 1. Why don't we continue on with the story where the guy says, I found a no-labeled story. Oh my god. He found a... Please stop it where you just find a random cartridge. I mean, like, a lot of stories use this method, and it's kind of stupid. It's kind of bullshit. It's kind of contrived, and it's kind of uninteresting and unoriginal. If you use it and I don't notice it, then you done good. If I notice it blatantly, then I want to... Whatever. If you're the author listening to me read this and critique it, I mean no offense to you. I really don't. The story's bad, don't get me wrong. I gotta say it's shit. But you guys have the potential to be better writers. And I know you guys can do better than this. And this is just dreadful. The reason I hear... I don't even know if I can review the other two. The first one, as you know, the second one, too short, no details given, and I have no idea what the fuck it was about. It wasn't a continuation, that was the entire story. Fuck that story. Number 3, why don't we quickly go through this? Main character talks about impaling people on spikes because he got a trophy. The story had no message, the trophy thing had no relevance, and to be honest, it wasn't creepy. No build-up, overall bad story. Now, why don't I go on to my end message? If you wrote any of these stories, I don't hate you. I don't think this isn't a personal attack against you. Your writing is dreadful. The writing here, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. This is dreadful. You guys have the ability to be better writers than this. And the thing is, the Creepypasta wiki now has standards due to the flooding of bad stories on the wiki. Some people can't get on the wiki due to the fact that it doesn't meet a grammar quality standard, because a good story could be ruined without any grammar. And I get complained to so many times asking me, how do you get on the wiki? How do you get on the wiki? And go like, write a good story and submit it. Jesus Christ. Well, I'm gonna go edit this. I'm depressed. You know, I'm just gonna, after this, you know, later today, you're probably gonna see me playing Destiny on the Xbox One. You know, on the Twitch, attached Twitch. And I'm gonna have some fun with my, like, British people somewhere in the magical land of adventure. Thank you for listening. This has been your host at Creepy Reading, who is now physically depressed. I'm gonna go mourn my cynical attitude. Have a good one.